So the G7 is in town, as they say. So obviously you're here today. Oh, Graham.
Yeah.
I didn't recognise you with the mask on. Hello, Graham. Long time no see.
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Obviously you're here today at G7, is it, or is it something else?
Yes, G7 and COP26.
Tell me more about it.
I just want to raise people's awareness, really, about COP26 and how important it is. Lots of people are aware of climate change, but they've got no idea of the disaster that is coming upon them, and it's coming upon them soon.
I hope you realise that down in Cornwall, some of the most important world leaders are meeting at a place called Carbis Bay. They're part of the G7 and a couple of other countries involved as well. And they're meant to be talking about making things better for ordinary people, whereas what they're really doing is talking about how to make the world safe for the rich to continue making more profit at the expense of ordinary people. They're also meant to be helping people in the third world who are suffering from the coronavirus. They've promised 1.5 billion doses of vaccine for them, which sounds brilliant, except they're doing it over the next year, which is far too long a period for it to take. So we're here protesting, saying we want something doing to make the climate sort of safer for people, to stop carbon dioxide being pumped into the atmosphere, which is causing droughts and fires and devastation around the world. We want to see an end to that, and we're here today to show that people in Sheffield and similarly in Manchester at the same time, and Birmingham and London are all coming out and protesting, saying let's have a better world.
Take care. I just want to say I'm not going to be around for the protest.
Yes.
I've got somewhere else to go.
Yes.
Can you just tell me why you're here today?
We're here today to protest the climate change G7 that's going on down in Cornwall, and the ridiculous attempt at the leaders of our country to actually make out that they actually care about the futures of our generation, futures of our planet, when all they want to do is line the pockets of the companies that are generally just trying to rape and pillage all of the land for their own goods, really. So what we want to say is thanks a lot, Boris Johnson, for taking an aeroplane to Cornwall for a G7 summit. But if you really can't see the diabolical irony in that, and if you really, really want to understand what's going on, then maybe you should, actually understand, how this works.
I didn't know he took a plane. Why didn't he just cycle there? Like
he could have took a train.
A train?
He could have, shared some kind of, I don't know, car in solidarity. He could have done a car share. He could have done anything he wanted. But the fact is, he doesn't care. He doesn't want to, and he probably doesn't even know, because he doesn't make himself aware.
He's not leading by example, really, is he?
No. But he's got a lot of very, very powerful people behind him, telling him to do.
Would it be fair to say he's a puppet?
Massively, yeah.
A lot of people don't realise this, do they, watching these interactions? Because I'm classed as alternative media. So unless you listen to alternative media and get a different perspective, you're going to be potentially programmed.
Yeah.
With programmes on television.
Yeah, and I think the BBC are very scared of having their whole kind of remit cut. So they'll do whatever the government tells them to do, and they've put the people in charge in the managerial positions that, that used to be Tory donors. So there's no transparency. There's no real media coverage of what's going on. Michael Gove's just been literally called a criminal in court. There's no media coverage about it, like yesterday. And the Good Law Project are the only people that are doing anything about our money going to line the pockets of people who haven't done anything about PPE or COVID at all, and they're all criminals. But are they going to go? No. Priti Patel, no.
You've made this sign yourself, didn't you?
Yeah.
When did you make it?
So I made it 6 or 7 years ago for a climate march in London, and they're still not moving. So today there's a little edit to make it the G7, but it's the same people and the same power, and we need to move faster.
I'm here particularly about better buses in South Yorkshire. When I moved here in the 1970s, buses cost 10p maximum fare for adults. There was bus services everywhere, and South Yorkshire had the lowest rate of car ownership in the country. We want to move back to that situation where we cut down pollution and carbon dioxide being put into the air from cars.
Obviously you said 10% back then, obviously inflation happens. Do you think inflation, the bus prices have gone up with inflation or over the top?
They've gone up way over the top, and the reason they've gone up over the top is back in the 1970s the buses were owned by the public. They were publicly controlled. Now they've actually become something which is just running for a profit for the stagecoach and first bus and so on. We want to end that profit making.
I sometimes wonder, seeing some of these buses travelling around with hardly any people on it, how do they make a go of it?
During the COVID, they make a go of it because we, through the government, are paying huge subsidies to the bus companies to keep them making profits, even though there's hardly anyone on the buses. They are threatening, when the COVID ends and that money goes through, stops coming through to them, to put their fares up by 5%. So we're saying, instead of them charging fares which let them make big profits, let's have any money that's made out of the buses used to provide better bus services by having them publicly controlled.
So with the amount of money that comes in, theoretically, one might assume you might as well just give it free bus rides the way it's been funded.
Absolutely. And that's what South Yorkshire was planning to do eventually back in the 70s, until they were forced to stop running buses and all the buses were privatised. They looked to a situation where buses would be free for people to use. Much better way of getting around.
I just want to make people aware that, as Greta Thunberg said, if you are working and paying your taxes are not going towards the preservation of our land and our country and our world. They are not prioritising what we actually need, which is to put more resources into sustainable energy, and just to listen to the scientists that are saying we have 10 years, and after that, do you care about your children's future? Then if you do, you need to actually kind of make yourself aware of it.
And life's about living and learning as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. We're all on a learning journey. We never stop learning.
So just believing one source doesn't mean to say that they're going to be telling you the truth. You've got to
exactly
cross-examine.
Yeah, exactly. You can't get everything you read from one source, especially the Daily Mail.
What's your take on Boris Johnson?
Where do you start? So if you want to line your own pockets and get very rich and help all your friends, then he's doing a good job. But otherwise he's not. And he's just not waking up fast enough. And we need a very strong leader, and we just don't have one, which is very sad.
Obviously he's at the G7 today, isn't he?
Yep.
If you could speak to him personally, what would you say to him?
Start acting like a leader and start leading and work with other people who are trying to actually save our planet and have a future for our children.
Do you think his hands are tied because he might be a puppet?
I think it's quite possible, but I also think that we elect these people and they've got to actually start standing up to big business and people like Amazon who are walking away from the table with it's just ridiculous.
We think COVID has been a terrible, terrible disaster, which it has been. But it is a picnic compared to what's coming with the climate and ecological emergency. We're very soon going to have mass floodings across the world, starvation because of droughts, crop failures, and that's not just going to affect the people in Africa and South America and Asia, it's going to affect us because in our country we produce very little food. We import most of our food from across the world, and those countries are going to struggle to be growing their food.
We are here till 2 o'clock, and then I think there is a Palestine rally and a pro-Palestine rally.
There's a lot going on in there.
There is a lot going on. There's a lot to protest, but word on the street is we have a voice and we need to use it.
With all these different groups, not think it would be better to unite? Because obviously divide and conquer seems to be at play as well.
Yeah, I think we are united. We are behind the scenes. We are all talking to each other for the first time in a really long time. And I really do believe, I'm from Take the Knee, and we take the knee every week to protest racism. And we did a protest outside Bramwell Lane the other day to support our England players who are taking the knee and asking for support from the crowd. And instead of booing them, we need to be praising them for taking a stand and for trying to make their lives a little bit easier in a racist society. And we had an amazing solidarity with all of the people who were kind of passing us, and it was, it makes me proud to live in Sheffield when that happens. And I think we are all kind of, joining together. But sometimes on a Saturday, when you want to protest one thing, we give one person the spotlight and then we give another person the spotlight, but we're all one big family.
It's a mess, and we need a new political system that actually works for us and our planet.
Do you think that will happen?
I wish. I think you have to stay hopeful.
Yeah.
Even in terrible times.
There is a controversial point for a lot of people with the Take the Knee, and it's the statement that comes with it, Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are saying that's kind of creating a conflict, because by saying that, it's like you're identifying the black lives only. Could it be that if people said all lives matter, black lives matter, white lives matter, all lives matter, can you see where I'm coming from with that? Can you see how it looks?
I can see how it looks, and I can see how it's been manipulated, especially by the Trump quarter. I think if all lives did matter, then I don't think we'd have to say that black lives matter, because the value that we put upon people who aren't white in the media in this country and in America and all across the world is less than the value that we put into European-looking people.
Well, without asking anybody that question, you're the first person I've asked that. I think, taken away from that, what you've explained to me, that white lives, all lives matter, but black lives are being victimised.
Massively. Yeah, they need more. That we need to value everyone's life. And if all lives mattered, then we wouldn't need to take the knee. You know, and we take the knee. Martin Luther King took the knee in 1965 in Selma. You know, we take the knee in solidarity, and you know, Colin Kaepernick and all of those people, they are making a statement. It's a peaceful statement, and nobody should be threatened by it. Everyone should be standing up in allyship and becoming an anti-racist ally, because we can't do this on our own. Yeah, we have to do it with everybody in solidarity, and I believe that we can do that now. I think now is the time that we're all actually listening to the voice of the streets.
So we need to get rid of the divide and conquer.
Massively.
And we need to, as they say, congregate and conquer.
Yeah.
Stop billions of deaths. Let's get insulating our homes. Let's convert from fossil fuels. Let's use the renewable energy that's available to us on this planet. And let's prevent the biggest disaster this planet has ever seen. We've got an ecological emergency. The bees are dying. And that's because of the pesticides and the herbicides we put on our crops. And without the bees, again, we lose our crops because we lose our pollinators. And that is going to lead to starvation. So I am just pleading and pleading with people who are going to be attending the G7 and COP26 to start facing this as a real emergency. We need to be on a war footing. We need to put all our resources into combating climate change and the ecological emergency, just like we did when we fought the Nazis in the Second World War.
Do you think there'll be a Nuremberg trials, a new one?
I think that's very likely. I think the people that are most responsible for this have names and addresses. They are the chief executives of the oil companies that have continued. They've known about climate change right from the 60s when I was a kid. And all this time they've promoted oil when we could have been using much cleaner energy. And those people should go on trial, yes.